Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Coming up this week, we're going to talk about 6 people who should not buy Disney Vacation Club. From the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida, this is the DVC Show. The DVC Show is brought to you by DVCstore.com. For more than 25 years, the DVC Store has been helping people buy and sell Disney Vacation Club. Visit them on the web at DVCstore.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show, coming to you from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined this week, as always, by my good friends, Miss Jackie Gailey.
Hi, everybody.
And from the DVC Store, Mr. Jerry Saito.
Hello.
And you're not on camera back there, right? No, good. It's easier that way. And Craig knows nothing about DVC. As he was reminding me this morning, I don't know nothing about DVC. Really makes me feel good considering you've been producing all these shows. And so he pays no attention to anything we're saying. But welcome, everybody. Hope you're having a good week. For this show, I decided that we should talk about, we've been talking these last episodes about people, what people should know about DVC and why they should join, which I think people should, but it's not a good fit for everyone. And we've all talked about that offline, and I put a post on our purchasing DVC forum on disboards.com, which you should go check out, by the way, and ask them, the experts.
And they are experts.
They are experts,
boy,
man.
Oh boy.
They know their stuff.
Yeah, they do.
I asked them, who shouldn't buy DVC? And a lot of interesting answers. So I took that, plus what we've discussed, and we kind of batted it around. And we kind of narrowed it down to 6 people, 6 groups that probably where DVC would not be a good fit for you. So I'm going to start off with what I gave them all names. I gave them all little names. The studio only set. These are people who are only looking to rent, to do the studio offerings at Disney Vacation Club. Disney is now letting you buy direct for as little as 75 points. So the barrier to entry for a lot of people kind of lowers if you're going to buy direct. It kind of lowers with that. It lowers the price. And, if you listen to your sales rep, they're going to tell you that, oh, yeah, with that, you can do a studio once a year, once every 2 years. What they don't tell you is how difficult it is to get a studio. These are the first units to, and it doesn't matter really, with the sole exception, maybe, of Saratoga Springs.
Yeah, Animal Kingdom does typically have some availability, even studios, but it's the standard view, forget about it. Value rooms, forget about it.
Oh, yeah.
You might get the Savannah because it's a little more expensive, but you're right. It's Old Key West, Saratoga Springs, and Animal Kingdom are really the only options.
And even then, they're hard to get.
They're really
hard to get, especially if you are booking less than 7 months out.
Oh, yeah.
If it's not your home resort. About 11 months, if you're, diligent and, you're online as soon as they open up, and because they're the first ones to go, especially like Jerry was saying, the standard view,
the lower cost rooms, basically. So I live in Orlando. I go to Disney often, and I stay at the resorts, and I use a studio. I'm my wife, and I have a 4-year-old. But getting a week, that's very difficult. Again, you're kind of like picking random dates to fill in order to get into those rooms. So it can be tough, yeah.
So, like, for example, I bought at Copper Creek. I bought 75 points direct from Disney at Copper Creek. Now, I've done some add-on contracts. One just got approved. I'm waiting on another couple. Shut up. Don't judge. And I took a look with my 75 points at exactly 11 months at Copper Creek looking for 6 nights. I could get it, but it was still it would cost 25 more points than I had bought. If I tried to book that same room at 10 months and 3 weeks, there was absolutely no availability at Copper Creek. That's how fast they go. Now, 1-bedroom villas, different story. Those tend to be a little bit more available, obviously. Like right now at Copper Creek, you can get a cabin whenever you want. Cabins are always available, but they're also 700 points for the week.
Right.
So if you don't have massive amounts of points, so the folks who are looking to go in with these 75 or 100 point contracts and think they're going to stay a week every year on that, no, you're not. And those studios are really hard to come by.
Yeah, and especially like some of them sleep 5 now. So, you know, they put that fold out bed
the Murphy
underneath
bed, yep.
the Murphy bed. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes if you're a small adult, you can sleep on that even. So I've heard of people just, you know, because it used to be where you had to get a 1 bedroom if you had 5. So that makes them even more popular.
Yeah.
So
And that fold-down Murphy bed is really for children.
It is.
I'm 6'2". I can't fit in that.
No,
not at all.
no.
So yeah, it's really for
Well,
small kids.
we're going to
small
find out
kids,
because for our Dreams event in August, for the 20th anniversary of Dreams Unlimited Travel, we're doing our big party, our big weekend party. And my mom's going to be there, and her sisters are coming in. So I went ahead and got a cabin. Not with points, I'm paying for it. But and the way things are working out, somebody's going to have to sleep on that little Murphy. Now, fortunately, these are all little Italian ladies. So I think...
it'll be fun.
And my mother's like, "Oh, I'm fine. I'll sleep wherever. I'm fine." Yeah. We'll find out.
The getting down low to the ground might be the hardest part. But like my daughter is 5'2", and she fits in it just fine.
Yeah.
I mean, so
let's talk about the second type of person that should not buy DVC. We call them the occasional tourist. This is somebody, we say it, you'll hear it on the boards. If you're not going to Disney World every year or every other year at the most, don't buy DVC because it's just not going to be worth it for you. And if you are going to go every year, you really need to be considering how many points you're going to need to make it worthwhile. For me, because I read all this about studio availability and things like that, I've kind of figured out what I need based on, and again, I'm not the perfect example of this because of what I do for a living, how often I'm on property, how much I have family coming down, stuff like that. So I'm not exactly the norm, but I had to sit down and figure out, where do I want to stay? Where do I want my family to stay? And how many points do I need to do that in a 1 bedroom?
yeah.
Minimum.
See, that's what we did. That's what we did when we decided to buy. So we were flying in from Seattle. There were 8 of us. So we had to figure out, you know, not everybody is as crazy about Disney as I am, but they do love it and they do enjoy it, but just not too much. So we were like, okay, well, if we do every other year, we could use, our contract is 200 points. So we could use 3 years worth of points every other year and have a big vacation in a 3-bedroom. Well, we originally started doing 2 bedrooms, but then we bumped up to a 3 because my brother and sister-in-law had kids. So, but we even still have enough for the family to grow. So when we bought, decided how many points we wanted, that came into consideration because Jerry and I already had our 2 kids and we were done. So we knew we weren't having any more. But my brother and sister-in-law, they were young ones. They didn't have kids yet when we bought DVC, but we knew they were going to have kids. So you kind of want to, the contracts last for so long that you want to take that into consideration. Who's in your family? Who travels with you? Do they have kids yet? Do they want to have kids? You want to kind of think about all this stuff, write it down. There's not a rush. You don't have to buy it tomorrow or it's going to go away.
Right. Well, this is why doing that research, really thinking it through.
Mm-hmm.
Taking all this into account, one person on the boards, and I should have made a note of it, but I didn't, said one person who shouldn't buy DVC is anybody who has, I think it was Carol Amen or moderator, anybody who hasn't spent at least 6 months researching this first.
Yes.
Yeah, it shouldn't be an impulsive buy. You should definitely do your homework and research. And to kind of back up a little, Disney's original, when they sold in 1992, the original sales was 230 points. That was the minimum, which, people ask, what's the right size contract to buy? again, it depends on their needs, but
Yeah.
230 gets you basically that one bedroom. I mean, 200 to 250 is kind of the wheelhouse for the one bedroom. It gives you flexibility. So those larger contracts, 230, 250, whatever, opens the doors. You really can start seeing those one bedroom, two bedrooms if you're banking, borrowing.
Yeah.
Obviously studios you could potentially do 2 weeks. So it's a nice contract. It's a nice amount of points to have.
I mean, it's worked out really well for us.
Yeah.
So if you go regularly, I mean, that's the thing. It has to be a go regular thing. It can't. I agree with this one so much, because if you're just an occasional tourist, you're not going to get your money's worth quick enough.
Well, closely related to the occasional tourist is the last minute tourist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The person who, like, oh, you know what? I think next month I want to go to Disney World. Now, look, if you have enough points to warrant a one bedroom, and you also are okay staying wherever,
Yeah.
and that means Saratoga Springs. When I say whatever, I mean Saratoga Springs, because that's where you're going to end up. Okay, then that's fine, because you will, I can look now at next month, and I can find something for, short-term availability. It's not like there's absolutely nothing, but it's going to be the higher price point rooms
Yeah.
that are open, and B, it's probably going to be at Saratoga. So if you're not okay with that, and if you are somebody who likes to plan last minute, DVC probably isn't a great match.
Yeah, because like you had said before, it's even last minute is so hard. I mean, sometimes when they announce the member magic, they just recently have made it so that if you have a resort reservation made by a certain date, you get early, you can book a week earlier than other DVC members. So they give you that. But the thing is that if you don't make a reservation and you want a studio, the minute they announce the dates of member magic, you may not find what you're wanting, because there's not a time, even our home resort is at Saratoga, and a lot of times, like, I'll say, gosh, I'd like to go to Disney next weekend, but there's no way we're going to find anything. Today's, we decide maybe less than a week ahead of time, and I'm like, well, let's see if we can get one for the weekend after. And I love Old Key West. And
So do I.
a lot of times I can't get Old Key West either. I mean, Old Key West was that was where we stayed the very first time I ever went to Walt Disney World. So it really holds a special place in my heart. And I love to stay there whenever we can. But
I do think if you're booking less than 3 months in advance, like 3 months or less, you're really just trying to pick up spotty dates. You're basically not going to find much.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, it's one of the things that was said on this thread was, if you're going to do last minute, you better be okay with split stays, because you're going to be staying 2 nights in one resort, 2 nights in another, 1 night in another.
Right.
And
which is also kind of fun if you don't.
if you don't mind,
If you don't mind, like if you're not the kind of a
but I don't know.
person-
For me, that would not work.
It would be a
I
hassle.
like especially the way I pack for a long weekend. I pack for a long weekend the way most people pack for 2 weeks away in Europe, and so for me, that would just ruin my stride.
Right.
On vacation. If I'm wanting to go in the parks, so now I got to factor in. I got to move resorts, and I can't get in until 4:00 and all this other stuff. It can be kind of a challenge.
It can, yeah. I agree. You have to be the right type of, that has to work for you. And it does work for some people, because, if you are the family who takes off bright and early in the morning, go to the park, you take your luggage to Bell Services, they'll move it for you to the next resort that you're going to. And if you're not coming back to your resort until that night after dinner or fireworks, then you don't care.
Right, that's
So,
true. That's true.
It really depends.
And for me, it's not as big an issue, because normally if I'm going to stay on property, I'm going to stay 2 or 3 nights. I'm not staying for a week.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not the norm, but when I look at it for myself, knowing how I consume resorts, why I consume resorts, and for me, a big consideration is my family. My nephew and his wife and his 2 kids, they love to come down. My brother and sister-in-law are down, and every year. My other niece and nephew are down every year. My mom's her 90th birthday is next December, and I really want to do something next year for bring everybody in. We had done that when John and I first moved down here. We got in a grand villa and 2 studios, I think, over at Old Key West, and it was amazing. So I kind of want to do that again.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do that again. So,
and you can plan it. Mark the 11-month on your calendar.
Exactly, and plan that out.
Yeah.
But, so these are the things I got to think about, like, what do I want? Like, how am I going to use this? Let's go on to our next group. And I call them the Army Brats. That, for the reasons we were just talking about, trying to get last-minute availability, it's not always a great idea for military families, because especially if you're active military, you can, well, first of all, you get discounts on rooms and tickets that have been around, and this was DL Gal on our DVC boards, wrote, "It's a bad idea for military, active, and retired because the current discounts on rooms and tickets are much better than the savings you get on Disney Vacation Club. And these discounts have been in effect for the last 20 years. It doesn't look like they're going anywhere. Also, active duty military life is not conducive to being able to plan trips 7 to 11 months out. More like 2 or 3 months out is the norm." So I fully agree with that it's probably not a great match.
Yeah, me too. Because you find out that you're going overseas for 18 months and they don't give you a whole lot of notice.
We have clients that, they're military and they're going overseas, they're being restationed somewhere else, and they end up selling because, again, the unknown, and they don't want to deal with managing their points while they're away for 3 years at a time. So,
right.
So,
and it's too much money to lose them.
Right.
I mean, if they can't use them and they don't bank them by a certain time, it's not worth the potential loss.
Yeah, exactly.
So
the next group we call the Perk Person. This is someone who's going to buy in to Disney Vacation Club because of the perks. And this was a consistent theme on this thread and other ones that I've read on our DVC forums, disboards.com. Never, ever buy DVC because of the perks that are currently being offered. Those perks are not contractually guaranteed, and they change all the time. For example, just talking about when Old Key West opened in 1992, they were giving out annual passes every year. Yeah. They stopped doing that, and I think 97.
They stopped selling it in, I think, 96 that way, but the passes were good up until 2000. So if you bought from 92 to 96, maybe 97, you got passes every time you checked in at Old Key West. But then they stopped that, obviously, and that was amazing, but no more.
Yeah, no more. I mean, they don't need to do it now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And these perks change regularly.
Right.
Kind of attached to that are the people looking to use points for Disney Cruise Line, Adventures by Disney, or the resort collections, where you use your points to stay in non-DVC hotels on Disney property. That's because they are a terrible value. When you factor in what these points are worth and what you would have to pay in those points to stay at these places, to do Adventures by Disney, to do Disney Cruise Line, versus what you would pay out of pocket cash, well, it's not even close to being worth it.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And these perks, as they say, these perks change all the time.
And they can change any minute.
Right.
So that's
because they're not in your contract. It's not contracted that this is what you're going to get.
Yeah. And it always, I never understand this, but people, you have to set yourself up to not be disappointed, right? A lot of people, I know that we touched a little bit about this on one of our previous shows about the buying for the perks. And I feel like, there was one perk in particular that I was bummed about just because I happened to experience it, was when they took away valet parking. And a lot of people were really upset about that. But I knew going in.
You know the reason for that, right?
I don't
Because
really.
Disney outsourced the valet parking. There was no longer Disney folks doing the valet parking. They outsourced it to a third-party company.
That's right.
And once they did that, they took it away.
They took it away.
The only group now that gets the valet parking are Tables in Wonderland, and only when you produce a receipt from that day that you ate in a restaurant in that resort.
Yeah, and you know what? And they keep that receipt too.
They keep the receipt.
So if you need it, you have to.
Well, they will. If you
get a
need the
copy of
receipt,
it.
if you need the receipt, they will tear off the bottom of it. There's a piece on the bottom that ultimately is what they need. But they ask all the time, "Do you really need? Do you need this back?
Do you need it?" Yeah.
But yeah, that was a big one. That was a big perk because you're talking about. What is it? $25 a clip?
It's 33 now.
Oh, is it 33 now?
It is.
And you would think I'd know that since I valet park, but I'm always valet parking to eat, and so I use Tables in Wonderland. But you think about that again, Tables in Wonderland. There's just no better program.
20% off.
20% off food and alcohol at Disney-owned establishments, and some other third parties are taking it as well, but guaranteed if it's a Disney restaurant, table service, you're going to get that 20% off food and alcohol. And, so you want to go eat at Ohana, you're going to get 20% off that meal, plus your valet parking at the Poly is free.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good deal. But that's not included with Disney Vacation Club. I think if they included Tables in Wonderland with Disney Vacation Club, that would be.
You can purchase it.
You get a discount on it.
I think it's $150,
it's still
I believe.
Expensive, yeah.
Yeah, to buy it.
No, I'm sorry. That is the best
Still
money you
worth
will ever spend at Walt Disney World is Tables in Wonderland. Because you stop and think about it. Let's say you like to go signature dining and you want to go to Citrico's and you want to go to California Grill. Do that 3 times.
Yeah.
And you have paid for your pass without even thinking about the $33 you're saving on valet.
In valet, yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
So no, it's one trip to Disney World, if you are an annual pass holder, Florida resident, or DVC member, you are eligible for Tables in Wonderland.
Yeah.
One trip to Disney World pays for that.
It does. It really does. I mean, we don't come terribly often, and we don't come as often as I would like to. But that's because my kids are a little older and, work and school and whatever. But I'll tell you what, if we did come more often, it would double and triple its worth. I mean, not very much time, because it's really good. And, that's the thing. Like if they, you never know when they could start offering something. You just have to take it as it comes.
Right.
And if they take something away, you have the right to be upset that it went away. Like, I'm not saying don't be upset if they take away a really cool perk.
Well, there was a time where DVC members got a ridiculous discount on annual passes, the platinum annual passes, and that went away.
That was
there's still a discount. You get the gold, but it's different than the platinum they offered years ago.
It's not on the platinum? I thought it was on the platinum.
It's the gold pass now. You might be able to get a discount on the platinum, but it's not what it used to be. I mean, the discount was almost half of what it was.
Look now.
The pass was less money than to renew would have cost you more, because we had annual passes already for our family when that deal came out.
Yep.
And it would have cost us more money to renew the 4 of us than it did to buy brand new ones.
We did the same thing. We bought the vouchers just to hold on to, and when ours expired, to use those vouchers for the next year.
For the next trip. That we did the very same thing, because you couldn't even resist it. I mean, it was, so that's the part where I try to, whenever I talk to people, I try to encourage them to manage your expectations, because it's really easy to get super mad and rant and rave and how mad you are at Disney and, I can't believe they took this away and they don't value us. And it's really easy to go on a tangent about it. But the bottom line is that you have to keep yourself in check, and you've got to remember that those benefits are not a guarantee. They never said they would be there forever. So you cannot, you have to, that's the part where it gets a little tricky sometimes for some people. I mean, and I get it.
I'm trying to take a look, but I'm not having luck finding exactly what it is, but on the annual passes. But
I mean, the perks are nice, but again, the for me, when I walk into that villa, that's the perk. I'm like, wow.
Right. I mean, and that's all you guaranteed with your contract. There's 2 things you're guaranteed: a certain number of points, and you're going to pay dues every year. That's it. Outside of that, Everything else is gravy. So you have to factor that in when you make this.
Yeah.
The other group of people we want to talk about, and then I have one honorable mention. The impulse shopper. Now, I am an impulse shopper. Jerry smirks. And
I'm nodding because he's bought 3 contracts in a short period of time.
We're going to fall out of our chair in surprise.
Understand something. It took me 20 years to decide I was going to do it.
Right.
So that's my justification. But people that, you're in Disney World and you're kind of like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then you do the tour. And what I really do like about DVC, they know that. They know that they don't take advantage of it. They really don't. They will tell you really should go home and think about this. Get out of this environment and think about this. They did that with John and I when we took the tour, because John was ready to sign right then and there. He walked in saying, we're not buying anything, walked out going, how much? And they didn't let us, as my mother calls me, they didn't let us do that. And I've heard repeated stories that that's their approach even now. So, but I'm sure if you jumped up and down and said, no, I want it now, they would sell it to you. But, and it was Carol I meant, because I did make a note here, our moderator on the DVC boards, said you should not even consider DVC until you've spent 6 months researching it. And I can't agree more.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
That if you really dig into, and what I love about our boards, it's not that these people don't love DVC. They do. But they're really honest about what they like about it and what they don't like about it. Mm-hmm. And so making that informed decision means you're not going to have buyer's remorse a week after you sign off and you've just spent all this money.
That's the last thing you want when you buy DVC. I mean, really.
No, exactly, because you're making a commitment here.
Yeah.
Right? The honorable mention, the last one, and this isn't like part of those are my 6 people who shouldn't buy DVC. So if you want the recap, the studio only set, the occasional tourist, the last minute tourist, the Army Brat, the Perk Person, and the Impulse Shopper. But honorable mention, just because a number of people mentioned it on the boards, I don't know that I agree with this, is the financer. Someone who is going to finance their DVC purchase. A lot of comments suggested that if you're not paying cash for it, don't do it. But other people have started to come in and say, not necessarily. If you know that you're going to be able to pay it off in a short amount of time, then it makes sense. But if you're going to finance it over 10 years, which some people do, what those points are costing you, really, because of the interest, is astronomical. I mean, it's more than double what you're paying, what you're originally going in for. So it's important to do all the math if you're going to finance. One person pointed out that on a 10-year financing at $188 a point, you could end up paying another $135 per point when you factor in financing. So, like for me, I have decided to finance my resale contracts, but that's knowing that within, at the most, 3 years, I'm just going to pay them off. And then it's worth it for me. If I was going to really finance them for 10 years, no, it wouldn't be worth it. Wouldn't be worth it at all.
Yeah, because you have that history where you can look and see what you've spent on resorts. Like you can look at that. You probably even have it in your head, because sometimes you just remember that kind of stuff. And you know already that you've certainly spent more than that over the last few years on what you've paid for your resale contracts.
And it was Dauberge on the boards that had posted that about what the interest would end up costing you. But then there was Dutton Party of 6 commented, we financed our purchases of DVC, and I don't regret it at all. We bought in as a family of 4, and we're spending about $3,000 each trip. It made more sense to put that towards our points to use each year as opposed to paying for one trip. I would rather be making payments to Disney to get something out of it as opposed to paying my credit card and not getting anything out of it.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And then probably the best line I've read in all the research for this, I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's SNDRAL, commented, DVC is a long-term relationship. If you've decided that you've had enough dating Walt Disney World and are ready to commit to vacations every year or every other year, then this is a good thing for you to do. So I thought, again, folks on the boards come up with some great stuff.
Yeah.
And I agree with that, this is the difference between dating Disney and marrying Disney.
Me too. That's cute. I never heard it.
I love that. And it's a great way to just kind of sum it up.
Yeah.
That's what DVC is. DVC is you get married.
Mm-hmm. Ready for that commitment. Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
It is sellable, so at some point
you can resell it.
You can't
That's
divorce
the other.
it.
You can get out if you decide to. Okay, we've been married long enough. But
Yeah, and that is important to mention too. That that's something you have to factor in to your decision. That there is a very robust resale market for these, and depending on when you bought, how much you paid, you can, it retains a good amount of its value.
Well, history's been great. Yeah, it's had a great track record for resale. I mean, value's only gone up, but again, future's hard to predict. But it's been a very solid property.
Unlike most timeshare resales, where you buy in at one price and when you sell them, you're selling them for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah,
that's not the case with Disney. It does retain its value. So, all right. So those are the 6 people plus one honorable mention that should not buy DVC, and that will do it for this episode of the DVC show. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again next week. Happy renting.